Welcome. This is Hand Therapy Briefs. I'm really excited today to have one of the innovators of Hook Splint. I've been wanting to talk to you for a while, Ava, so I'm so excited that you can be here. So can you tell us, just to start off, just a little bit about you as a hand therapist, your career trajectory and kind of what led you to where you are now? And just unmute yourself.
Sure. Thanks for having me today. I'm honored.
Sure, great.
So I realized I wanted to go into hand therapy very early on. I really liked my hand therapy professors at school, and I was very motivated to go that route. I would say that post-graduation, we didn't have a program like yours, and it was hard to break into hands. My first job was like a Monday and Friday, 7 to 7, like long hours, not practical to learning or to lifestyle or anything like that. But I took what I could get, and I, slowly, once I had experience with that, I went into just some outpatient jobs, whatever I could that was the closest to hand therapy. And then I slowly kind of started learning and started studying for my CHT. A lot of self-motivation though, not anything, as defined as your program, which everyone's lucky to have now.
So what was that timeline before you got yourself in a position where you could take the exam, that you had enough practical experience, that you felt ready to take the exam?
So they had actually, so it was originally 5 years, right, that you had to be practicing. And right when I was hitting my 3rd year, they switched it to 3 years.
Lucky
So
you.
all of a sudden I switched gears and I was like, I'm going to start studying. So really, as soon as I could, I just, I put a lot of time and effort into studying. And so 3 years after practicing, I would say I took that exam.
Okay, great. And then in terms of where you landed with the orthopedic surgeon that you've worked closely in developing, at what point after you got your CHT did you start working in that clinic?
Actually, as soon as I got my CHT, that's when I was kind of ready to, pick my head up and look around a little bit, post the books. And this was much more convenient location wise, working with Dr. Solomon, who I ended up creating the Hook Splint with, and he was great to work with. We developed it because we were just hearing a lot of people complaining about the RMO. We were like, this is such a simple splint. It's supposed to be functional. Why is it so hard? Why is it so uncomfortable? Why is it so bulky? And he just made like a casual comment, like, we should come up with our own product. And then it kind of stuck with me. And my daughter actually brought home a bracelet that was a pipe cleaner that had flexible metal. And I was just like playing with it. And it lifted the finger and I was like, oh, flexible metal, maybe that's our route. And then that's what led eventually a more sophisticated version. And also COVID had hit, and the clinic was slow. We had time to sit down, really say like what we wanted in it. We had a little bit, the clinic slowed down with COVID, kind of led us to push us forward a little bit.
Mm-hmm. As far as the thermoplast fabricated versions, or maybe you even used Orphicast.
Yeah.
Did you try working with that material in any way? And in those efforts, did that at all inspire the design of your current Hook Splint?
We definitely worked I definitely worked with like Orphicast, different versions of thermoplastics. It did inspire it because I would say the fact that the Orphicast design that we would do was closed. I was like, we need to come up with an open loop, because the closed version was so hard for patients to take on and off. Anytime I would try, expanding it, trying to put it back on, it was just like it just wasn't working. So I was like, in my head, I noted open loop, where it's just like one big circle, that if there's any sort of swelling, it's not going to be a struggle to come in and out of it. I love Orphicast. I love Orphit. I'm totally not putting them down. Just for the RMO specifically, for my patients' uses, it wasn't our best option.
Mm-hmm. And so did you do like a trial with kind of like a mock version of what is now the Hook Splint?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we were fortunate to have our patients to trial on. in a busy clinic. So, you know, the RMO has expanded past the extensor tendon repair. So we had plenty of stiff fingers to work with, you know, joint contractures, hand pain, radial tunnel syndrome. We were able to, as they were coming through the clinic, have them patients tried on patient feedback, you know, rigidity wise, did it give the lift, was it comfortable? I kept track of their responses, would follow up with them. You know, they all kind of just got to be part of the initial trial just from being our patients. And the design was altered a little bit based on feedback. It definitely kind of evolved into what it is based on that. Yeah.
What were the major complaints from patients with the RMO? I mean, I kind of heard you say the bulkiness of it. I guess the getting stuck over maybe swollen fingers.
Yeah.
Things were the problems.
Yeah, and then if we tried putting Velcro on so that they could take it off, the Velcro would get caught and dirty. So hygiene was a big thing, especially with COVID. You know, everything was supposed to be wiped down constantly. Patients were coming in with, you know, some of the Orphicast wet, and their skin was getting macerated. What else were issues? A lot of rubbing in, so like, you know, pressure marks. Yeah, all of those things that I was like, and the ones who were part of the trial process that had the other one and had this one were like able to fully appreciate it. They're like, oh, we've been waiting for this. So hearing that from patients was very reassuring. The ones who had the older versions and then had our Hook Splint. Yeah, that was great feedback.
I'm really interested in how like the whole process of product development works. So you have the idea, you fine tune your idea. It sounds like you did a little bit of a pilot study in a sense of testing things out on patients. But in terms of like bringing it to market, like what are all those in between steps? Like who did you call for develop the product fabrication? What materials are used? What all went into that?
So first we had our engineer who we kind of told her in general what we wanted, and she came up with ideas. Just an example of an idea that she had come up with which we didn't use was a roll of this, like a roll of the Hook Splint material. But we didn't want to be left with rough edges of cutting. I was like, I'm not comfortable with people cutting metal. So that got nixed. Her original design also it was just like a wire going through it versus like a sheet, like flexible metal in the whole thing. So that was a development that like once you get to that stage, you're like, oh, duh, that makes sense. But as you're going through it, you're trying to figure out like, what do we coat the metal in? What would be comfortable? We ended up adding a layer of UV coating because it was the previous version was sticking to things like, you know, we're like, if it's so practical, they can't have dust and things all over it. That, you know, like the Apple Watch has like a smooth UV coating. So that was something we added because we wanted it to just feel smooth. Our tabs weren't originally coated, and then we coated them also based on feedback. But you wanted to know about the process. So first I would say the engineer. And then
how did you find the engineer? Even just like what kind of engineer did you contact?
So I interviewed a lot of them. She was a mechanical engineer. I looked through the bios and I saw like who has what's it called, work experience that kind of overlaps with this. Tapped into the medical field a little bit. A lot of these people have their like profiles and their things just posted, things they've worked on, pictures. So I really sifted through a lot of different just backgrounds of you know, who felt like they would align well with that. And then some of them actually would take you on to the factory. We just, you know, wanted to do it on our own. So we kind of parted ways after that. And then searching through, you know, factories was a big ordeal. Interviewing them, I wanted to make sure that their quality was good. We had got samples from other factories that were not up to par with, you know, our standards. We finally found this one that's super detail oriented. that, was more in line, and they had their own ideas, like they were more sophisticated. So yeah, it's not an easy process finding this, but you really have to.
No, it sounds very complicated. So when you're looking for the manufacturer, I mean, did you contact maybe someone else who developed a product to get some
Yeah,
insight?
I spoke to anyone I could think of in the hand therapy field that had come up with a product. I spoke to Wendy from Wrist Widget.
Yes.
She was so nice and helpful. Yeah, I definitely was like, trying to like get all the information I could, all the knowledge.
Right.
And even friends who had gone through this process, not, in the hand therapy field, I was asking everyone, just kind of figuring out how this all works. Like,
Yeah.
and even, once we got that figured out, get to figure out just like warehousing and barcoding and all of that. That was a whole nother world to learn.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What about patenting, like your design? Was that also
Yeah.
something
So
that you
we
did,
did that early on. Like as soon as we started, publicizing it, basically, we got the provisional patent, which, by the way, publicizing it actually also would count as a provisional patent, but it expires after, I believe, a year. But we wanted to make sure it was like in writing. So
Yeah.
we first filed the provisional, and then when that expired, we filed the permanent one. And at this, it's looking good. We're hopefully gonna get it. Waiting for the final word. But that was also a process, interviewing lawyers, comparing pricing. Some had, it was a package deal for provisional and utility patents, and some, was a separate, different states had different pricing. So we definitely interviewed lawyers, and came up with, the practice that we thought was, the best fit for us. That was also a process. I was like, what's a provisional patent? What's a utility patent? What's a design? I didn't know what anything was. I'm like, as some of the intros of the lawyers that they would give us like a rundown, and I'm like scribbling down notes to like Google later. But it's funny because as you're talking, there's certain lingo in the industry that people expect you to know, and I was just kind of like taking notes and like Googling later. I'm like, I can't ask like basic things that outright,
Yeah.
But you know what, actually, like the more questions I did ask, the more knowledge I had. So there's no harm in asking as much as you can, I learned.
Sure. Yeah. So in terms of, it sounds like then there are like, a reasonable amount of upfront costs, even well before you're bringing this to market, I imagine.
Yeah.
Between the lawyers and the engineer and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of did like a family and friends type of thing. And the good thing was also the costs were spread out. Like we asked everyone to kind of like give us quarterly, payment plans type of thing, which was helpful. Not everyone can offer that, but
like as an investment, they were investing in your
right. And even the payments to vendors and things like that, were divided. So like, first we give you this and then you pay us this and this. So some of that was helpful. But yeah, I would say family and friends were helpful in that too.
Yeah. So it sounds like you were able to navigate what could be barriers for some people and, pursuing and going, as far as you took this.
Yeah.
A lot of, you were able to navigate those barriers with some good options and solutions. So that's
Yeah,
great.
it definitely was a lot more involved than I anticipated.
Yeah.
You kind of learn as you go, and yeah, each step of the way was like, and you think it's over once you launch. You're like, I'm gonna launch now. And I'm like, no, now you gotta market it. Now you gotta sell it. Like it's not the hard part starts now. I would say different, but it's been fun. It's been really fun learning it.
Good. And so what was the timeline from like conception to starting to produce the product and market, and what did all of that look like timeline?
About 2 years. I would say. It was also the time when like factories were shutting down in COVID. So some of that, I mean, also we wanted time to really track patients who are wearing it. So I would say even once we had the product, there was just a time of testing. But it was really a factor of people just getting sick, like factories shutting down, timelines getting delayed. that it was a challenging time to start it with what was going on in the world.
Yeah. So if that element wasn't there, the COVID piece, do you think
Mhm.
like it could have been done in maybe a year? Like how much do you think that tacked
I
on
don't
in
think so,
terms of?
honestly,
Okay.
because even just the design, right? The colors, the logo, everything takes time and it all kind of piles on each other. So I was
Yeah.
like, do we get the patent first or do we you like try to figure out like what it's like a puzzle. Like, do I do this first, that first? And even hiring like a compliance agency, like if you do your due diligence and kind of like interview each place, what's the right fitting for you budget wise, like it's everything just is a process, especially if you're working at the same time.
Yeah.
In hand therapy, which I was. So I don't know. I don't think it was I don't think it could be that much shorter when you think of all the components plus the
Yeah.
testing.
Right. Yeah. Well, you want to show us the hook splint? Do you
Oh,
have,
sure.
yeah.
So we have 4 sizes available now. And
Mhm.
actually listening to customer feedback, our first splint, the small medium is a softer metal, and we got feedback that people wanted a more rigid one. So the remainder of the sizes actually are more rigid metal
Okay.
than the original one. So this is the hook splint.
Mhm.
I'll show you the large. Um,
And it's
it
a
has a
great
little
logo,
booklet.
by the way. Great
What'd you
logo.
say?
I love your logo. Like
Oh, thank
everything.
you.
Yeah, it's
We
great.
wanted simple, modern, sleek.
Yeah,
That's what we were
you
going
got it.
for.
It is.
And then, so it's basically, you can see the outside is a smooth coating. It's silicone. The inside's a flexible stainless steel. I'll demo it with the middle finger. I don't know if my background's working to my advantage or not.
That is fine. It's fine. Yeah.
Fine, okay. So you basically just you put it on the hand. You just find the
Mhm.
hole that fits the sizing. I'm going to
Mhm.
actually do this a drop smaller. And then you just make a fist over it, make sure it feels good. You want to make
Mhm.
sure it's not scissoring. You see here, I did it a little bit tight, actually to show you guys
Okay.
what not to do.
Yeah.
So and if you made it too loose, you can see there's no lift. So
Okay.
you want a happy medium, a hole that when you make a fist, there's plenty of room, but you still get a lift. But
Mhm.
the fingers are not scissoring. So and then you take it off the hand. And for the more rigid metals, I like to use like a smooth needle nose plier. It's just easier on the
Mhm.
fingers.
Mhm.
And you just loop the hole toward the circle, not toward the loose end. I don't know if you can see it, buttons. Uh,
Yeah.
we have YouTube clips that might give a more zoomed in version. It might be helpful.
So this is really just for therapists to issue to patients. You're not marketing it to patients. You're marketing it to
Um,
professionals.
right. I mean, we are on Amazon, so patients could, but it's really being filtered with hand therapists. Like hand therapists are really sending them. And we also distribute through North Coast Medical. We sell direct as well.
Mhm.
So you can see it just gives the lift. It's comfortable, smooth, sleek. One of
Yeah.
our patients actually, when we were developing it, had their child's wedding coming up. She's like, I can't wear this to the wedding. She had a strict protocol where she had to keep it on. And she was
Uh-huh.
like, I can't wear, the other version to a wedding. And I was like, perfect. We have the solution for you. And she was so happy that it's a little bit lower profile than the thermoplastics.
Yeah.
Um, so that is the Hook Splint.
So with regards to, like you mentioned that you have like vendors that are selling it, not Salmons, but North Coast Medical, I think you meant to mention them.
Yeah.
Amazon. Did you market it to each of these specific vendors?
Well, the trade shows are very helpful for that.
Okay.
So I had done my first show was Philly Hand. I believe it was 3 years ago. And they had the booth right, North Coast Medical was the booth right near me. Just happened to have worked out that way. It was actually the first conference post-COVID. Like it was like people were still like, so it was actually a small conference. It was the first one. It was actually good for me to have like a small conference to kind of like get my bearings, figure out like you know, what's helpful and what's not in booths. And then they just approached me there. Like I would say that if someone has a product and they want to be, if they want to make connections with distributors, trade shows are a great idea. That's where they're looking for products, and that's where you can look for distributors.
Got it. Anything else you want to share in terms of just the whole process of developing this, the Hook Splint? Do you have other products that you're working on?
We have the hook roller. And if you
I
see, if
did
you guys
see
have seen that
that.
advertised, which is our next baby. That was the next thing that we were like, why is there nothing specifically for the hands and arm? We wanted something that was, you know, the shape of it.
Mhm.
And one side is like nubs and the other side is smooth, that you can also
Yeah.
get in there like this. But I was like, if I hear one more patient say that, you know, the peanut ones, the ones with like the two balls are not hitting the right spots, I'm like, I just need to come up with a better version. And also you can heat it and cool it. So, you know, if someone doesn't have time to heat it, then roll it. It's kind of like a combo. You get really deep in there
Yes.
all at once. So that was another thing. We were able to, you know, have patients try out,
Yeah.
give us their feedback, and they really loved it. Yeah.
So are you hooked on product development now?
What'd you say?
I said, are you hooked on
On
product
Proctom,
development?
yes. And actually, I also wanted to say our latest, this is our latest launch, is the Max. The Hook Splint Max actually can be worked as an anti-claw
Oh,
and as a thumb orthosis. So that was the other orthosis that we always had an issue with, was the anti-claw. Also, so it should be so simple. It's just
for the
pushing the
same
hands
reasons.
down, that
Same
were like,
reason.
why is it so complicated? So it's much longer than
Mhm.
the RMO to give plenty of room. So you push it down like this,
Yeah.
and it's the same way you would make one with thermoplastics. You make it
Oh,
with
wow.
yeah, you just have to fast close it, but
Mhm.
gives a nice push down.
So billing now, they're rigid, so you can bill L codes.
Yes, and especially you could do other things. You know, they don't only have one purpose. Like this one specifically can also be done as a thumb orthosis. So, you know, you can do multiple things with them. They're basically a piece of flexible material with a rigid core because of the
Mhm.
metal, because there's a whole
Mhm.
thing of metal. So it really is a custom orthosis.
So what is that one called?
This is the Max, Hook Splint
Okay.
Max.
And is that something that you've been actively marketing, or is that just brand new?
No, it's actually a very new release. It's getting into our warehouse. They're just inputting into our warehouse. It's actually it's not available yet, but it will be, you know, within the next week or so. So this is the
Wow.
a virtual fellowship exclusive.
Gotcha. Well, thank you. That's so exciting. I didn't realize that. I saw when, before I was meeting with you, preparing to meet with you, I saw the hook, the roller
Yeah.
on your site. But it's so cool that you've continued and developed these additional products. That's exciting.
Yeah. You know, I keep listening to the needs, and like and I'm just like, we need to address them. You know, I feel like our field needs more innovation, and
Yeah.
I feel like it comes best from people who are working in the fields.
So for therapists that are kind of inspired to do the same, do you have any kind of words of wisdom you want to impart?
That are inspired to do the same. Be prepared to learn as you go. It's not something we learn in school, you know,
Yeah.
unless you have a dual business degree, it's not something that we're really taught. And so it's just, you have to be motivated. It's not something you can passively just think about. It's like you need to be motivated to keep going. But once you do, it's such a fun and rewarding experience. I would say, if you have that, you know, endurance of grit, then, I would say go for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, congratulations on all of that.
Thank
And you've
you.
also made some recent changes, right? You're not in the same clinic anymore. You've
Right.
relocated. We're
Yes,
not.
I actually moved from Maryland to Florida, in August, which is, the hottest month here. Once we hit the winter, I'm like, this is why I moved. Um, and down here, I've actually just launched AvaCure. That's a concierge hand therapy practice that we just kind of go around into, you know, into homes, workplaces, physicians' offices. Um, And yeah, I just kind of wanted a higher level of therapy, like not as, you know, the busy clinic that I'm used to, more like one-on-one in the functional setting, in the best place to try to get back to those activities. Yeah, so I'm excited to, so that's another journey of marketing, and, you know, I've been meeting with the hand surgeons in the area, to get that off the ground.
Well, good for you. Good luck with that. Good luck with all
Thank
your
you.
product development. It's really amazing to see what you've accomplished.
Thank you. I appreciate
Um,
that.
and I thank you for your time. It was
Thank you
great
for having
learning more
me.
about this. And thank you to those of you that joined us. We'll post this on YouTube and hopefully see you in the future for another hand therapy briefs. Thanks for
Yes.
joining, everyone. Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.